This is the Volvo Ocean Race, the story of a 45-year obsession. Sailing's iconic race around the world, the ultimate test of a team, and the place where elite sport meets human adventure. Achieving victory will mean dominating a 45,000 nautical mile race over 11 legs, taking in 12 host cities across 6 continents. 7 international teams are vying to add their name to the Volvo Ocean Race trophy. After Team Aksenabel's win in Leg 6 and Sunhunkai Scallywag's second podium finish in a row, the top of the overall leaderboard has been shaken up. They both move into 4th and 3rd respectively behind Mafre and Dongfeng race team, whose once secure standing on the leaderboard is now being challenged. With double points on offer, Leg 7 would prove to be one of the most relentless Southern Ocean passages in the history of the race.
First 24 hours are pretty brutal.
The boat is like a roller coaster, dropping off 20, 30-foot waves.
Driving in this condition is just a nightmare.
It's been one of the hardest journeys of my life for sure.
It's given us a bit of a beating. I'll be glad to get out of here.
Next stop, Itajaí, Brazil. 7,600 miles of racing through some of the toughest conditions a sailor can experience. All the skippers knowing that everything was to play for in this iconic leg.
This is the leg. This is what it's all about. You know, Auckland, around Cape Horn, to Brazil.
Well, we're facing now the second Southern Ocean leg, which is probably the most important leg in this race. It's double pointed and is the most dangerous.
To have a leg where you round the infamous Cape Horn is a big tick box, and when you have a crew that have never sailed around the world before, it's massive. I'm pretty honest and open with the guys and tell them the truth so they can manage their expectations.
Driving in water of 5 degrees with an air temperature of 2 or 3, and all the stack on board is just a nightmare.
Cape Horn is one of the 3 great capes and probably the most iconic. It could very well be the toughest 2.5 weeks of this race.
You have to do this leg well and make sure that you get a good result in Itajaí, and everyone will be fighting for that podium, and we very much need the points. That's a fact.
All 7 teams would be on the start line after Vestas 11th Hour Racing's absence from Hong Kong to Auckland, following a tragic collision with a non-racing vessel at the end of Leg 4. The boat was fully repaired in New Zealand after being shipped there with the goal of making the Auckland restart.
After spending some time at home, I think everybody was looking forward to getting back here and getting back to it, but with heavy hearts and not really knowing what that was going to feel like. And now that we've been here for a while and the boat is in the water, I think, I personally am just really excited to get back to it. See this as a big challenge on a number of fronts, just to get our team back on the water. This is also probably going to be the most challenging leg in the whole race. And it's going to be a big challenge for us to show that, we're as strong as the team that we think we are.
And for Bauer Becking, skipper of Team Brunel, he too knew the challenge that lay ahead, but was optimistic.
I think we have to be very honest to each other. What is the aim? Just looking in the long term, I think if we start first looking at 3rd place on the podium overall, that's a very easy job. Let's say it that way. We're only 6 points out from number 3.
This is Becking's 8th attempt to win, but so far his team was struggling to find form and time was running out to turn the situation around. Auckland, the city of sails, lived up to its name as the fleet docked out. The preparation complete, the goodbyes said, the time had come to head down south.
Well, here they go, the one they want to win, but the leg the sailors fear the most, around Cape Horn to Itajaí, Brazil.
Okay, racing. Okay, good job, Sharp.
It is brilliant sailing here, and what a scene for everybody here in Auckland. Love it, love it.
The fleet would dive south of New Zealand, back into the rugged Southern Ocean. Once past the infamous Cape Horn, it's north, up the coast of South America to the finish line in Itajaí, Brazil.
Had a nice start, we're in good shape, time to head south.
There was no gentle warm-up to the leg. After leaving Auckland, it was a bumpy upwind ride for all the fleet, just 10 miles separated first place from last.
First 24 hours is pretty brutal actually. It's a lot of manoeuvres, a lot of tacks. Now we've come around East Cape and lost sight of the homeland. It's gone, the next landfall sees Cape Horn.
To get to Cape Horn, the fleet would have 4 or 5 days of jibing in challenging conditions in the Southern Ocean. After their leg win into New Zealand, the crew's spirits on board Team Axonabel were high, albeit with an air of caution.
It's just so difficult to get across unscathed without something happening. You know, for at least a week in 30 to 40 knots in the Southern Ocean is just a massive, massive effort.
As the fleet headed towards the ice exclusion zone, a southern course limit, temperatures started to drop.
We're heading south quite quickly, so it's very noticeable that its air temperature and water temperature are going down rapidly as well. Plenty to come ahead.
At some stage we're going to have to turn left and start heading a bit more towards Cape Horn. I think it'll get pretty gnarly at some stage soon, and then turn into an absolute jobbing frenzy.
For the team on board Vestas 11th Hour Racing, it was 2 months since they'd competed, but they were quickly back into the groove and leading. With no points gained for the last 3 legs, it was critical to get back into the game.
It's good to be back in the water. Felt like we were a little bit on the back foot, but I guess that's somewhat to be expected.
Lots of anticipation, you know, the repair and all the work that got done, but you know, the day's finally here, and I think that's what we've all been waiting for a while. It's going to come down to hard work and determination, and I know we've got plenty of it, so I know we can do it.
Race organisers had implemented an ice exclusion zone that allowed the teams to sail as far as 59 degrees south latitude, well into the furious 50s. As the fleet approached the zone, they turned towards the east and pointed at Cape Horn. There were multiple lead changes over the next few days, but it was overall race leaders Mafre who went to the front of the pack. Dongfeng race team hot on their heels.
Gate 15 in Brunel. We are running now almost parallel to the exclusion zone line, around 3 miles away. Let's see how all this plays out and how everyone finishes after tonight.
At the back of the fleet, Sun Hung Kai Scallywag were having problems.
We're driving in the ice gate, trying to hang on to the leaders, and the rudder block, fly block, twisted upside down. So when we brought the new runner on, broke the block and stripped the runner tail. So we were lucky, we could have snapped the runner and lost the rig.
With the exception of the Scallywags who were further north, the rest of the team stuck together and skirted the southern limit to sail the shortest distance to their goal. The result? More breeze and more swell.
It's pretty hard to sleep and eat and just live on board. This boat is like a roller coaster, dropping off 20, 30-foot waves all the time, so it's a little bit harder to be on board.
I'm responsible, so ultimately I'm always going to be probably on the side of caution, but we're racing as well, so we don't want to hold back and miss out. But it's about pushing and knowing when to throttle back, and with manoeuvres only making sure we do them when everyone's happy and try and minimise the manoeuvres in the windy stuff.
As the fleet continued to head east, they started to experience wind speeds in excess of 40 knots with enormous seas. The teams faced days of the worsening conditions. For skippers and crews, it was a sobering time.
So let's go. 4 hours. I have my helmet.
When you have 40 knots, you know what sail to use, and then you have a gust to 55 and you have too much sail, and driving in this condition is just a nightmare.
The Southern Ocean was living up to its reputation. All the teams reduced their sail size to minimise the chance of damage, but leg leaders Mafre were dealt a blow.
The mast track came undone and grew, pretty much what happened to Axo during a jibe in leg 3. Pretty disappointed, but I think we react quite quickly. We ratchet the track up. Our intention is to keep sailing, keep racing, pushing all the way to the horn.
For the overall race leaders, the problem with their mast track could potentially be a game changer and disrupt the aim to finally win the race for Spain. As the Southern Ocean continued to demonstrate its power, Team Brunel took the lead, but it was an achievement that quickly paled into insignificance. Just 48 hours later, and race control in Alicante, Spain received an emergency call from David Witt, skipper on board Sun Hung Kai Scallywag.
Hello, race control. We've just plotted it as well, so this is the latest position that MRCC have.
Approximately 1,400 miles west of Cape Horn, in 35 knots of wind and a huge swell, Sunhunkai Scallywag had an accidental crash jibe, resulting in crew member John Fisher being knocked off the boat. He was wearing all his safety equipment when he entered the icy waters. With input from the Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre in Chile, a search and rescue operation was carried out for days. The crew on board Sunhunkai Scallywag searched extensively in gale force conditions, but sadly, John Fisher was not recovered.
This is, of course, a terribly sad moment for all of us, and first and foremost, our thoughts are with John Fisher's family and with the crew members on board Sunhunkai Scallywag.
With weather conditions deteriorating, and with the safety of the remaining crew a priority, Sunhunkai Scallywag headed towards the coast of Chile. For the rest of the fleet, the infamous Cape Horn was yet to come. For veterans and rookies alike, it would have been a highlight to their Volvo Ocean Race. Now, the milestone would forever invoke the memory of the loss of one of their own.
Everyone wants to say their condolences to the family of John Fisher, or Fish as we know him better, and of course all his friends. But also we want to give some strength to the guys on board Scallywag.
He was a really nice person, and I feel terrible for having lost him at sea.
To say that our thoughts are with the Scallywag crew and all John's family. Just wish for the best for them from now.
The Scallywag incident basically made me want to get out of here and get back to family. It's kind of a real grounding.
It's absolutely devastating for everyone on board, and obviously morale's down, and everybody's really feeling for his friends, family, and all the teammates that he has on that boat, and we can't imagine the pain that they're all going through. And so our thoughts are really first and foremost with those guys, and the race is really secondary at this point.
It was John Fisher's lifelong dream to compete in the race. His loss while doing so, a tragic reminder of just how high the stakes are when racing down south. As the Volvo Ocean Race fleet approached Cape Horn, it was a pivotal moment, but just 6 of the 7 teams would round the iconic headland at the tip of South America. Team Sunhunkai Scallywag was heading towards the coast of Chile after the devastating loss of crew member John Fisher, who was knocked overboard and sadly not recovered. With heavy hearts, all the crews gathered on deck in solidarity as each boat passed the Horn, an outstanding achievement for any sailor, but on this occasion, a reflective and subdued milestone. Team Brunel led around the Cape, just 60 miles separated first from 6th place.
Oh, we're here! Here's the Horn. We've been trying to get round for the last 10.5 days.
For the first time in thousands of miles, the fleet were not alone. The guardians of this stretch of water, the Chilean Navy, were on hand to offer support if needed, a welcome sight for all the crews. As Mafre approached this turning point in the race, they were dealt another blow. Their damaged mast track had now affected their mainsail.
Got a little tear on the luff, and then 10 minutes later basically split from luff to leech. So now we've got the severe damage, so we've suspended racing. We're heading to a bay to meet our shore crew, and we're going to have to try and get all fixed up in 12 hours and carry on.
With outside assistance and the use of their engine, the team would face a time penalty of a minimum of 12 hours before they could rejoin the race where they'd left it.
It's quite tricky repair with material stuff, the material we have here and on the place we have to do it. But we're gonna do all what we can and try to finish the leg.
With the rest of the teams powering on, this was a huge setback for the overall race leaders in this all-important double points leg. In this edition of the race, the Southern Ocean had been one of the fiercest on record. For old hands, a brutal reminder of how harsh this remote part of the world could be. For first-timers, a baptism of fire.
It's given us a bit of a beating, and you look at the place, it's also beautiful, absolutely stunning on one hand and ferocious on the other. I'll be glad to get out of here.
Been so full, so intense, so physically intense. It's been one of the hardest journeys of my life for sure. We still have to be very focused on the job till we get there.
Team Brunel was still leading, but being pursued by Dongfeng Race Team and Vestas 11th Hour Racing.
I think some of the people thought yesterday was actually the coldest day of sailing, and that will last for another 24 hours before finally we can turn north.
By now, Mafre had re-entered the race after repairs to their mast track and mainsail. The Spanish team were now the trailing boat, but nearly 300 miles ahead, Team Vestas 11th Hour Racing, who were in third position, were knocked out of the leg altogether.
There was a big bang and the rig broke just above the first spreader. The top of the mast as he landed in the water with a stump sticking up. Since then, just to make sure we look after the boat, protect the integrity of the hull, we've had to cut everything away, and that's all away safely, and glad to say everyone is safe.
We can't really overcome this one now, but we can make a plan to go forward and try our hardest to keep in the race.
It was a heavy defeat for the team. This would be the fourth leg in a row with no points after a great start in this edition of the race. Under their own power, the team headed to the nearest landfall, around 100 miles away in the Falkland Islands. Leg 7 was proving to be relentless and unforgiving, even after the Southern Ocean. Turn the Tide on Plastic were next to experience problems.
A bit gutted at the moment. We bounced off a big wave and the rig was all twisting around, so we've dropped the sails, and now Liz has got the unenviable task of going up there to find out what the problem is.
Okay, I found part of the problem. Spreader 2, starboard side. The spreader route looks like it's threaded.
Although they were able to continue, Dee Kafari and her team slowly started to drop back from the leading three boats over the following days. Conversely, at the front of the fleet, Dongfeng Race Team had eaten into Team Brunel's once substantial lead as they headed north.
We are fighting for the first place with Brunel, but we don't have to forget that the boat is tired, the people are tired, and the biggest mistake we could do would be to push too much to try to win this leg and break something, so we have to find a good balance.
Third place Team Axonobel had now succumbed to the high pressure system and less breeze, thwarting their attempts to catch up with the leaders, but they were also hundreds of miles ahead of the trailing two boats and were pragmatic about their performance.
We shouldn't complain. A lot of people had a lot tougher leg than we have, so all good. Just keep sailing and we get there when we get there. Can't change anything about it. We're in a position where we got through this leg in a really, really good shape, and we should be grateful for that so far.
By now, Team Sun Hunkai Scallywag had arrived safely in Chile, a week after suspending their race. Time to reassess their options after the loss of crew member John Fisher. Nearly 900 miles away, Vestas 11th Hour Racing had made landfall in Port Stanley in the Falklands and started to make plans to get to the start line for the beginning of the next leg.
We're working on the boat now to prepare it to be in a good shape to go sailing, and hopefully we can get the other parts of the boat that we need down in the next couple of days. So it's all positive at the moment, and we're obviously fighting hard and enthusiastically, because now we've got a good plan.
The team aimed to build a makeshift mast and sail setup from spare parts found in a local boatyard.
Worst comes to the worst, we have a rig and we can just use a storm jib, and that'll help assist a little bit of thrust for the motoring that's coming up. So that's all we can do, that's all we can find. It looks crude and agricultural, but we think we can make it fit.
Their temporary repair would have to get them more than 1,500 miles north, up to Itajaí, and it would be a race against time. Mafre, along with Turn the Tide on Plastic, were now handicapped by lighter airs and had dropped further behind. For the last 500 miles to Itajaí, the two leading boats stayed within 6 nautical miles of each other. The gap reduced to less than 1 mile as they approached the finish line.
A bit stressful, because yes, they are just 1 mile behind in light spots, so everything can happen. So yeah, it's a bit uncertain.
They are very close, and we have probably more wind now than him, so we can reduce the distance. He will be the first one to fall in the light spot. Maybe we can do something.
Both Team Brunel and Dongfeng Race Team were hungry for a leg win, something that had eluded them so far in the race. In a light and shifty breeze, the final few hours of the 7,500-mile leg was nail-biting. Less than 15 minutes separated first from second, but it was veteran Bauer Becking and Team Brunel who prevailed, taking line honours, their first in a Southern Ocean passage that will always be remembered.
We're a little sad in our heart, very sad in our heart. We know why. John Fisher's loss sits very deep with us. But of course, sport-wise, we sailed a very nice leg. And we've got a young guys, and they showed, I think, the old foxes in this leg, that they are the future, and just kept believing in our own team. So happy chappies right now.
Charles Cordrelia, skipper of Dongfeng Race Team, content with the second place. But the accomplishment bittersweet after such an incident-packed leg.
Of course, I'm thinking to John Fisher, and I'm so sad for his family, and it's so sad. I'm so sad for all Scallywag team, but it's part of our sport. It's an extreme sport. Sometimes it happens. Unfortunately, it happens. It's always too much, but it's like that. So I think about John, and we can give all the team give some place to him and think about him and his family.
36 hours later, and third spot went to Team AkzoNobel. They had a huge advantage over the last two boats and crossed the line unchallenged. This, their third podium in a row.
We're very content with the result, of course, and the goal was to have a podium position and to have a safe journey and to keep the boat in one piece, and we did. Even though it was a slow finish the last 48 hours, but I think we had a good race.
With the podium spot secured, it just left the battle for fourth place. Nearly 2 days after Team AkzoNobel finished, Turn the Tide on Plastic crossed the line and posted their best performance so far, and in the hardest leg. A proud moment for skipper Di Cafari. 24 hours later, Mafre finished fifth, their worst result of the race.
I think we have to be happy enough that with all the problems this leg and the 5 points we had in the pocket before, we are still right there in the race with 1 point behind, which is nothing. We won't do any changes and just need to rest and keep sailing as we are.
Consequently, Mafre had lost their grip on the overall leaderboard, usurped by Dongfeng Race Team, just 1 point now separating the arch rivals. Team Brunel's victory in the double point leg catapulted them from 6th to 3rd overall. With just 4 more legs to go, the race was wide open. Vestas 11th Hour Racing and Sunhunkai Scallywag were in a race against the clock to get to Itajaí in time to repair and refit their boats to rejoin the next leg. Next, the fleet head north for 5,700 miles up through the Atlantic Ocean to the US sailing Mecca, Newport, Rhode Island. It will be the last time the fleet will cross the equator and negotiate the ever-tricky doldrums. Leg 7 will be remembered as one of the toughest journeys down south in the history of the race. But above all, it will be remembered for John Fisher, who was lost at sea, fulfilling his lifelong dream to race there.